Ooh. Let's meet Dash at Tavern on the Green for some avocado toast, and then we'll go to the Lincoln Center and watch a production of Berg's Vosse. We are the Panzer Elite, born to compete, never retreat, go stiff as Sean.
Take that, Lincoln Center. Play some real operas for a change. Okay, that's enough horsing around. What I wanted to do today is talk about solo wargaming. Wargaming, that is, because when it comes to playing multiplayer, it's mostly my family, and the most I can get out of them is maybe a version like Ticket to Ride here, the New York version, which is actually not a bad game. But I wanted to go through these because I've fallen into the traps of thinking this war game is amazing, and I think it'll be okay for solo. And it turns out it isn't. It just doesn't satisfy, and I end up trading it away. So this is kind of how I years of experience, and hopefully I can pass some of this on to you so you don't fall into the same traps, is where we can kind of evaluate whether a solo experience is really right for you or as the way it is right for me. And so what I've done is I've kind of divided them into 4 categories, and that's it. Let's go through the first category here. Let me expand my camera out a little bit. Category 1, I'm going to classify as full solo, fully realized solo. Someone sat down and wrote an entire solo, if not completely intending the game to be played solo and no other way. Category 1. I'm going to pull one out, for example. There's a couple here I got examples of because I think there's 2 kind of subcategories of that. First, I pulled out this coin game. Sorry about the glare in the light. And with these, you're getting one of these category 1 games when you open up the non-player sheet and you get this massive flow chart, highly detailed, telling you just about everything you need to do, including even how to execute certain cards and so on. And this is the idea here is it's a full bot, full AI, and it's going to take most, if not all, the decisions out of the player's hands and leave you just to make the decisions for your side. I do like these. A couple of issues with them, I think, is that when they're so fully realized, it ends up kind of being a procedural headache sometimes. You'll just be like, oh, okay, it's taking me forever to get to the point where I am actually making decisions and, playing my turn. Other issue I have with these is they kind of tend to turn into puzzles where you're looking for seams in the AI, where there's weaknesses in it, and you just kind of find a little spot and you start pulling it open and exploiting it and kind of breaking it like a puzzle. Coin games, I've played a lot of these. I've done the Fire in the Lake, Markarmings. I did the Falling Sky, Caesar and Gaul. The what else have I done? Brian Train's other one, Afghanistan, blanking, A Distant Plane. But I kind of burned out on these for the reasons I mentioned. So I have this one. I haven't really messed with it too much. Hold on just one second. I'm getting a phone call. Sorry for that interruption. Where I was talking about, I was kind of burning out on these coin games. And I've traded a lot of them away. And I haven't traded this one because I really haven't explored it yet. And I probably will at some point. But I always go back to my original favorite, and that's the Andean Abyss one. Even though it's the one that is the behemoth of them. It's like a 6-hour. I think it has a lot of bloat. But I love it just simply because of the setting. There's no games about the Colombian history after Escobar is out. And this is just an amazing way to learn about that. And I think they should have a sequel, quite frankly, and where they take all the stuff they've learned from other coin games and kind of streamline this a little bit. But that's the first one, and I like to go. We're not going to talk about solo games until we talk about at least GMT, and they have them in other games as well. They're a little scale here. First, they'll have the complexity rating, and they rate this as a 5, which I think might be a little low. I don't know. And then they have solitaire suitability over here, and they rate this a 9 because of the full design AI bot. And I probably wouldn't argue with this too much. But that is the first subcategory in the main category of full realized bots. Another subcategory, I'm not sure how to name this one, but here we have the hunters. But it's a little different. And it's different in the sense that I guess we'd call it a story generating game. And that's your main focus is narrative. And so you'll have a U-boat, you'll pick out a U-boat, and you'll roll for your patrol assignment. And then you'll roll for your patrol, and you'll roll for random encounters. When you encounter something, you'll roll for the ships. And then you start making the decisions like, okay, do I wait for nightfall to attack? Do I use steam torpedoes, which are more reliable than electrics, but they leave a trail, which people can hunt you down a little easier, and things like that. These are like the story ones, like what else is there? B-17 Queen of Scots, which I've never played, but I hear it has famous or infamous, depending on how you are. I also have On Order any day now, praying. Storm Over the Reich, which I think is more along this lines. I'm not sure. I've never played the other one, The Skies Above the Reich, so this is going to be a little adventure for me. That's something I'm definitely going to break out when it arrives. Hopefully soon. Hopefully soon. Okay, so that was category 1. Let's go. Category 2 also have AIs, and they can even have very high detailed AIs. But there's a little bit of player interaction, player input on how it is run. And for a good example of this, we're going to go to Markarming's Empire of the Sun. And this one is highly detailed, and in fact, you get your own manual for the card-driven solitaire system, CDSS. He calls his bot Erasmus in this one. And as you can see, we have the big flowcharts, and you'll actually have 4 different flowcharts depending on the state of the game. And but it's a card-driven game. So normally in 2-player hands, you have hidden hands from each other, and that's a subject I'm going to get into in a bit here. But he went ahead and wrote a bot to figure out how you're going to get your hand, and it can get pretty elaborate because you have to sit there and calculate the value of the hand, and you run that against the flow chart. But he does leave a lot of decisions to the players, even though it's highly detailed, and he says it right here. It should be strongly noted, however, that the number of card combinations in any given hand multiplied by the number of unit positions on the map generates a practically infinite number of game states. This is great for game replay, but a challenge to encapsulate in a flowchart. So if you find yourself in a situation where the flowcharts fail to make a logical choice appropriate to the situation, simply apply common sense and continue on. Okay, now this, if you're someone who likes category 1, you like those big high detail. I've actually encountered people online and things like this. This chafes them. They don't like this. They don't like where the player has kind of an input on how the solo bot plays. And I can understand that, I think. But I got to say, what I was talked about earlier, how am I picking out solo games that I want to do? This, and also, here, let's go to Mark Herman's other one. Possibly my favorite war game at the moment, arguably. Pericles also has the very detailed, but it's not a card-driven game. Or, well, it does have cards, but it's not kind of the hand management for movement and things like that. This one, and he says here, he gets, what'll happen is you'll roll your dice for the factions in here, and it's going to generate a strategy. And it says, okay, this bot, I want this strategy. For these strategies, I want you to use these actions. I want this target space, and go. And the player has to basically sit down because the movement in this is so freeform. You have to go into you got to get a lot of player input on how to do that, which can chafe someone. But in this game, in the designer notes, he gets Mark gets even a little more I don't want to say cranky, but a little more. He basically says, look, if you're looking for a game that does everything for you for all the possible combinations, I can't do that. I can't sit there and write every permutation of what's possible. If you want that, you really need to go find a computer game. He's a little salty there, but that's fine. So fully, still heavy AI with a little, and of course recently Atlantic Chase, which I've been doing a whole series on, where the player is the nice thing about this one is this is a little not as complex. So when it's asked to say, okay, do a trajectory, as the player, and it's the same thing as an AI bot. There's really no kind of random, the AI would do this instead. And, it's actually pretty solid. And it's interesting because he has the manual for the solo ones, which have their own rules. And he even says in Solitaire, now this is interesting, Solitaire, in his this is the two-player book, but he says, Solitaire, the scenarios in this book may also be played solitaire. To do so, you take the role of both sides, switching sides with each change in initiative, pushing the action forward by making what seems to be reasonable decisions from the current point of view from the side with the initiative. There is a long tradition of playing war games this way, and doing so means the story depicted by the game is more important than striving to make one side win. However, if that is not to your liking, an entire book of scenarios is provided in Atlantic Chase, the Solitaire Scenarios book. It is designed for the lone gamer who prefers an artificial intelligence rather than relying on one's own narrative. So, this is going to get the long tradition of playing two-player games solitaire style, which is going to bring me nicely to Category 3. But let's move on there. Category 3, which in this category, there is no AI. There is no attempt to make, or not much attempt to make a solo game. These are typically your two-player games where I'll play the Viet Cong, I'll make the best moves I can for them, I'll flip over to the French side, and I'll just make the best moves I can. And like he said, Atlantic Chase, what's his name? Jeremy White. Like he says, there's a long tradition of playing games like this. Two-player, and just making the best moves you can. And I'm very much from that school, going back all the way to, I want to say late 70s, when I found in the attic my dad's copy of 1914 Hex Encounter. So this is a Hex Encounter game as well, and this is but this is a modern one. In fact, okay, I gotta give a shout out here. I'm gonna put a link down to Bruce Garrick. Bruce Garrick has a series where he looks at 4 games about Yen Bin Phu. Pardon my pronunciation. And even if you don't care about this battle or this setting or anything like that, do watch it. He gets 4 of these games, and they're from different periods. Like the first one is from 1975. And as he goes through it, he gives an amazing account of the history of board gaming all through it. And you can see the design all the way up to now. This one's up to 2014. Put a link in there. It's absolutely worth your time to watch that. So a little signal boost for him. Okay, so that's Category 3. Two-player games where there's no bot. You're just playing the sides and doing the best you can on either side. And you're just really kind of just watching the action happen. Which brings us to Category 4. And here, where's who organizes this place? Category 4. And I picked this as an example. Just happened to, what to call this? Another Markarming game. Well, we're just Markarming all over the place today. I got other games I could have used, but oh well. Two-player games no bot, no solos. But in games like these, I think there is a significant obstacle to a satisfying solo experience. And in the case of, say, For the People, and also all these card-driven games like Paths of Glory, if you call it a war game, Twilight Struggle, or all these, the impediment is hidden information that you can't not know. So you'll play the Confederates here, and you'll have your hand with them, and you okay, I did my turn, then I put my hand down, then I grab the Union hand, and now I'm looking at my hand, and I'm saying, I know the Confederate hand has this card in it. I can't pretend I don't know it has this card, so I can't not, play like that. Now, just because there, let's see, other impediments would be like hidden information, hidden orders, like Pericles I showed earlier. That's last in, first out orders, hidden orders. Even though I'll talk about the solo bot here in a second. Block war games where you don't know what the unit is until you flip it over. Or Stratego style block games, things like that. Things where the hidden information is really important, and if you know it, it kind of kills the mood, as it were. That's not to say that they can't be played solo. I'm just saying you usually have to do some tweaking to make it work. You have to find a way to overcome that. And in the case of card-driven games, you can go find on Board Game Geek Stuka Joe's card CDG solo method, which I think a GMT has picked up and is actually releasing as a formal system. Go check that out. I think it's on the P500 list. But anyway, he has the cards laid out, and you're rolling dice to select certain amounts of cards. So you're like limiting the information on the hand. I've used it. I don't hate it, but it's just not for me. And it's really important because this is not really what am I trying to say here? Is that when I'm looking at new games and I'm looking at all these new games and I see something like card-driven games, the first thought that comes to my mind, I've been down this road before. I love it. I love Markarming. I love everything he does and da-da-da-da-da. But in the final analysis, how realistic is it I'm going to get this to two-player, and how much am I going to go with a solo? In which case, I don't really care so much about the solo part of it. This is also true of, say, Labyrinth, the War on Terror, also a card-driven game, kind of a Twilight Struggle spin-off. The designer actually made a solo version of that, and this is kind of a subcategory here, is where it was really at its heart a two-player game. But here's this kind of solo system, although it significantly kind of changes how the game is played. And I actually ended up not liking how the solo rules played for that. I tried the Stuka Joe method for it, and I still it just wasn't clicking for me. And I ended up trading that away, although sometimes I think I can find people who want to play that now. But that's kind of category 4. Is there anything else I wanted to add on it? No, this is just kind of my 4 categories of when I'm shopping. And I don't keep very many games. I don't have a full-blown collection. So it's because I don't have the space, I don't have the time, things like that. And I don't want to collect just for the sake of collecting. So, games kind of have to audition for me. And so when I'm shopping them, I'm looking at, okay, let's look at this solo thing. Because here, and I tell you what, like I said, those GMT ones the scale is actually pretty good. And they're honest. I'm not going to say they're dishonest, but I think that sometimes they're a little optimistic. So this one is rated at a 6 for solitaire suitability. This, I think, is going to depend heavily on taste and how much, if you're a guy who likes category 1, you're going to be like, this 6, no way. That's a 4 at best. And I might be inclined to agree with you. So you have to take that with a grain of salt. You have to know where you are in kind of the solo sweep. But like I said, I like kind of the hybrid category 2, where it's a fully thought out bot, but it's not turning it into just rote procedures. That's my sweet spot. And I'll expand this way or that way. You know, I'll go for a fully everything, and I'll also do the 2-player. I am kind of in kind of the rejection mode for card-driven games, unless I suddenly start running into people who I can play with. Then I might start bringing these out more and buying more of them. But that is all I have for you today. I hope this was helpful. If you have any comments like, hey, you forgot about that's fine. Yeah, ring out in the comments or how you approach solo games, things like that. Thanks for watching.